In the fighting game world, where every punch, kick, and combo counts, the introduction of guest characters has sparked both excitement and controversy among players. While in fighting games they often add excitement to the game experience, amidst the hype and fanfare lies a lurking shadow, the potential downsides of integrating these outsiders into the fray. In this video, I will be covering the dark side of adding these guest characters and fighters. As a disclaimer, I don't have a problem with guest characters, as I have made a few videos talking about ones I would like to see. This video is more to cover the controversy that might surround them and the negative aspect it can have on a fighting game. With that being said, let's get into the video. Let's dive into breaking immersion, especially when it comes to guest characters. Fighting games are all about these carefully crafted worlds and stories wrapped around the characters. When you suddenly drop in characters from completely different franchises, it can mess with the whole vibe. It's like inviting guests to a party who just don't quite fit in. It's awkward and kinda ruins the flow. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes you'll have guest characters from the same universe, like Street Fighter and Rival Schools. They're like cousins from the same family, so when Akira from Rival Schools popped up in Street Fighter V, fans were cool with it. Well, most of them anyway. Some folks say she's not really a guest character, but let's save that debate for another time. But then you've got those guest characters from totally different worlds, like Darth Vader and Yoda crashing into Soul Calibur 4. They stuck out like a sore thumb and just didn't belong, leaving die-hard fans feeling pretty miffed. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. So, in my opinion, it's best to stick with characters that share similar universes, or at least have designs that blend well with the game's vibe. That way, everyone can enjoy the party without feeling like there's an elephant in the room. You know, this whole guest character thing really gets under some fans' skin. I am sure every one of you who's talked about guest characters has heard someone go, "That character doesn't belong here. It makes zero sense as a guest character." Now, personally, I don't really mind random guest characters popping up, but I think the devs should take the fans' feelings into account. There are plenty of characters out there that could fit right in, so why not stick with those? It just makes sense to go with what works for the majority of the fan base. The next thing I want to tackle is balancing issues. Guest characters may not be balanced properly with the rest of the roster. They might possess abilities or mechanics that are either overpowered or underwhelming compared to the game's original characters. This can lead to frustration among players, particularly in competitive environments, where balance is crucial for fair gameplay. If the character comes from an over-the-top world that has insane gameplay mechanics, chances are the character will be broken, or a set character playing by different rules because of their game. Akuma was one of the most broken characters in Tekken 7 because he was playing a different game, with high damage output, fast and evasive moves, and basically playing with Street Fighter mechanics in Tekken. For those who have played Tekken 7, we all know how broken Akuma was in that game. This can be a big issue in making a character play true to their game origins and can make for a very unbalanced mess, leaving the player base having to deal with broken characters that you might see in most of your ranked matches, making playing online and ranking up less fun. We all know any character can be broken, but a broken guest character is far worse. Now we talk about licensing agreements. This often looms as a significant hurdle. These agreements can impose constraints on developers regarding the design, move sets, and overall integration of guest characters into the game. Such limitations can stifle the creative freedom of developers, leading to guest characters feeling shoehorned or disconnected from the game's mechanics. Licensing issues can extend to voice actors, affecting the authenticity of the guest character's portrayal. A notable example is in Mortal Kombat 11, where the Terminator is not voiced by Arnold Schwarzenegger, the iconic actor who portrays the character in the film franchise. Instead, Christopher Cox provides the voice for the Terminator. While Cox's performance may not be inherently poor, the absence of Schwarzenegger's distinct voice can create a dissonance that detracts from the character's authenticity and impact in the game. Licensing issues can lead to severe consequences, as exemplified by the case of Mortal Kombat 9. In a particularly alarming scenario, the game was removed from Steam because WB may have needed to renegotiate the rights to include Freddy Krueger as a DLC character. As WB no longer owned the character, this situation created significant complications for the game's availability. Consequently, Mortal Kombat 9 is no longer available for digital purchase, robbing fans of the opportunity to experience a beloved entry in the series. This unfortunate incident underscores the potential harm that can arise from licensing characters that are not owned by the developers. While such occurrences may be rare, they serve as a stark reminder of the risks involved in navigating complex licensing agreements. Another important consideration is short-term appeal. Guest characters typically do not carry over to the next installment of the game. Here's the deal with guest characters in fighting games. It's like this big tangled mess involving contracts, marketing, and what players expect. Unlike the original characters from the game's universe, guest characters usually crash the party from other franchises thanks to some licensing or promo deals. They're supposed to jazz things up and possibly bring in more players, but they can also leave you hanging in future games. Now, imagine you've poured hours into mastering one of these guest characters, getting all attached to their moves. Then, they're gone in the next game, leaving you feeling like you wasted your time. It's like investing in a stock that crashes before you can cash out. This means that the time and effort invested in mastering a guest character may ultimately feel futile when the next installment is released and that character is no longer available. Consequently, players are then forced to adapt and choose a new character, leading to a sense of disappointment and wasted effort. It's all about finding that sweet spot. Guest characters can spice things up, sure, but they shouldn't overshadow the original crew or leave fans feeling abandoned. Balancing the hype with the long-term health of the game. Now, that's the real challenge. I have to give props to Dead or Alive 5 for how they handled my joining the fray. She fits right in with the rest of the cast, and fans went crazy for her. They loved her so much that they brought her back for the next installment. Now we get into roster space. This is a crucial aspect to consider when discussing the inclusion of guest characters in fighting games. The more guest characters are added, the fewer slots are available for original characters from the game's universe. Mortal Kombat 1 serves as a prime example of this dilemma. In the initial combat pack for Mortal Kombat 1, half of the characters were guests from other franchises. While these guest characters undoubtedly brought their own unique flair and appeal to the game, their inclusion came at the expense of some longtime fan favorites. Characters like Jade, Sonya, and Jax, who have been staples of the Mortal Kombat series for years, were notably absent from the initial lineup of playable characters. For loyal fans who have grown attached to these original characters over the years, their absence from the roster can be disappointing and frustrating. It's like going to your favorite restaurant and finding out they've removed your go-to dish from the menu. Sure, there are new and exciting options to try, but it's hard to shake off the feeling of longing for what you know and love. This imbalance in roster representation can leave a sour taste in the mouths of fans who feel that the developers prioritized guest characters over the beloved icons of the franchise. It's not just about the quantity of characters, but also about the quality and diversity of the roster. While guest characters can bring in new fans and generate buzz, it's essential not to overlook the significance of maintaining a strong lineup of original characters that fans have grown to love and cherish over the years. Balancing the number of guest characters is paramount. The Soul Calibur series serves as a prime example of effective guest character integration, typically featuring 1 to 3 guest characters per installment. Exceeding this threshold risks transforming the game into a crossover fighter, which, while appealing to some, may alienate fans who prioritize the inclusion of original characters. Ultimately, maintaining a balance where original characters take precedence over guest characters ensures the game's identity and appeal to both longtime fans and newcomers alike. The inclusion of guest characters should be approached with caution to ensure that it doesn't come at the expense of original characters. A last and final thing that can be detrimental is exclusive guest characters. Platform-exclusive guest characters limit access to certain content based on the platform a player owns. Platform-exclusive guest characters erect barriers to certain content based on the player's chosen gaming platform. This creates frustration and disappointment among players who are unable to access specific characters or features due to platform restrictions. The inability to experience content enjoyed by others can lead to feelings of exclusion and dissatisfaction, ultimately detracting from the overall enjoyment of the game. To which, exclusive guest characters exacerbate the division within the player base by segregating players based on their gaming platform. This fragmentation inhibits cross-platform interaction and collaboration, hindering the formation of a cohesive and inclusive gaming community. Players on different platforms may find themselves unable to fully engage with one another, resulting in a fragmented community devoid of the shared experiences and camaraderie that are integral to the gaming experience. The detrimental effects of platform-exclusive guest characters have been evident in past gaming titles, such as Mortal Kombat 9 and Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Both of these games featured PlayStation-exclusive characters, restricting access to these characters for players on other platforms. This exclusivity not only created disparities in content availability, but also contributed to the fragmentation of the player base and weakened the overall sense of community among players. In competitive gaming environments, the presence of platform-exclusive guest characters can introduce disparities in gameplay, leading to concerns about fairness and integrity. Players who have access to these characters may gain an advantage over those who do not, potentially skewing the competitive balance of the game. This can undermine the integrity of competitive tournaments and esports events, leading to dissatisfaction among participants and spectators alike, leading to competitive tournaments banning exclusive characters to give all players a fair footing. The inclusion of platform-exclusive guest characters in fighting games poses significant challenges and drawbacks for players and the gaming community as a whole. Developers must carefully consider the implications of platform exclusivity and strive to ensure that all players have equal access to content, regardless of their chosen gaming platform. By fostering inclusivity and fairness, developers can promote a more positive and cohesive gaming experience for everyone involved. As we come to the end, it's pretty obvious that guest characters can really hype up fighting games, bringing in new players and keeping things exciting and fresh. But the developers have to be careful not to go overboard. They have to think about the pros and cons. Find that sweet spot between keeping things fresh and staying true to what makes the game special. At the end of the day, we want guest characters to add to the fun, not take away from what makes our favorite fighting games so awesome. And that's a wrap for today's video. Now, I want to hear from all of you. Drop a comment down below and share your thoughts on guest characters in fighting games. Do you love them, hate them, or somewhere in between? Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in the next video.